Hello and welcome to a video where I draw in my sketchbook, and come along and draw with me if you want, or if you want to just watch, that's fine too. I hope you have fun either way. Today, my challenge is, I actually have a challenge today first of all, instead of just dinking around in my sketchbook. My challenge is to turn my Pinterest page into aliens. Everybody that I come across on my front Pinterest page, I'm turning into alien versions of the people that I see. So this first guy, the things that stood out to me with him were his big old glasses and his really distinct mouth. So those are the things that I am working on right now. And everything else I'm just gonna kind of gloss over. I'm aiming for simple today. Sometimes I get really caught up in the details and it stresses me out a lot. And I already have a lot of stress going on in my life, so I want to not be stressed while I do this. And I think it will be a fun challenge, a fun exercise to just relax and remember that life is fun. So let's make it funny also by making aliens look human. So I'm just working on these glasses and getting them the right thickness. And I think this part that shouldn't be pointy. It's got to match. Yep, this side is not pointy, so I'm gonna erase that so that both sides match. And let's add in some of the creases that make him him, and let's create just a real simple hair. I'm not gonna stress too much about this. This is usually where I stress a lot, is the hair. So I'm not letting myself get stressed out, and I'm just adding just real simple lines. Ooh, what if he's really nearsighted? He already has glasses, might as well exaggerate it. So when I go in, I'm using my new pastel pencils, and I'm still getting used to them. See, I could do a lot of research before I even begin using a new product, but that really overwhelms me, and it feels like I should know all this stuff before I start, and then I just get really paralyzed before I even begin. So I like to just mess around with the product first and see how it works in my life, and I will come across things that I feel like I'm doing wrong, and that's kind of when I like to troubleshoot and figure out how to use it the right way. And then once I see it done the right way, then I'm like, oh yeah, this is how I was doing it. It would be really helpful if I did it the other way. And I can see now that the right way actually matters. I don't know if that makes any sense, but that's how my brain works. So let's color in these glasses, and I'm just using four with this brown, 4 colors of pastel pencils here. And just really working on the highlights, the midtone, and the shadows. Again, I'm trying to keep it real simple, trying to not stress myself out, so I am not worrying at all. And at this point, I feel like this is the best decision of my life. I feel like drawing aliens was the perfect challenge today. So I'm also switching to my favorite charcoal pencil. This is just the medium dense or medium hardness charcoal pencil, and I'm just going in really simple with some of the main wrinkles in his clothes, and then I'm blending it out with this little blending tool, my favorite tool. I use it all the time, and it's looking too blank here. So I'm just adding in some hatching, because why not? This is not serious. So let's clean off the page and clean off the culprit. And let's add in just a little bit of lining around his face. I'm using the charcoal pencil again. Yes, this is exactly what this hair needed. All right, let's move on to this next girl on my Pinterest page. I really enjoy her expression, and I also am really excited about the hands. I love alien hands. The little knobby fingertips are really fun to draw for me, so I will be adding in a lot of them. Well, an appropriate amount of them. I'm not just going to be adding in fingertips randomly. They'll be attached to fingers. So instead of drawing straight vertical eyes for her, I decided to angle them to feel a little bit more feminine. Now I'm just adding in some where her hands and where her cheeks might puff out. So kind of the relationship between the hand and the cheek right now. So this is the back of her hand, and these are the long alien fingers. These are so fun. So here's the middle finger. It's gonna tuck behind. Let's make this knuckle a lot bigger. And with this hand, we gotta keep the consistency with the length of the fingers. Now they are long fingers, so they have to match on both sides. And then let's add in her headband. And I also will be adding in her hair too, so I'm taking that into account for the end of this headband. I gotta replace the eraser first. It started scratching up my paper whenever I would try to use it, and I was like, what is going on? But then it's because my eraser was down to the very end. All right, so let's add in her mouth. And since her hands are pushing up her cheeks, they would change the shape of these eyes right here. The cheeks would be pushing into the eyes. So I'm gonna exaggerate that and then push out these cheeks up here a little bit more. Let's add in these bangs. I love bangs. I think it's just a really easy way to make a character look really cute. And also you don't have to worry about the hairline if you're drawing bangs in front of the hairline. So that's helpful. Her hair down the back. All right, so I am extending these lines just a little bit more. Man, I am so dirty today. Let's get rid of some underdrawing before we use markers. I'm gonna do markers on this one. So I chose a light, medium, and dark, kind of like I did for the guy to the left. And so I'm starting out with the super light color right now just to get like a base color down, and then I'm going in with the darkest shadow color that I have, and then I'll blend it out once I have all those parts in. I'll blend it out with the mid color, I should say. This part is so relaxing to me. When I'm really stressed out, it helps to not think about anything difficult. So focusing on something so simple as just put the dark lines on the right side. It's really helpful. All right, she's got to have the classic alien nose, and it's not going to protrude at all, so I'm just going to trust the process and see what happens with that shading. And let's add some charcoal to the eyes and make it really dark black. That contrast is awesome. So if she's pushing up against her mouth, these lines are going to be really deep. So let's make these darker. And I'm going to be using this charcoal also for the hair because it's the darkest black thing that I own. I have a very dark gray Ohuhu marker, but not a black one. Also, I really enjoy the texture of charcoal. So I'm not complaining. In fact, this would probably be my first choice to begin with. And when you smudge it out, look at this. It's so smooth and rich, and also it's not as smooth as a marker would be, so it adds like a lot of texture also. I'm just a huge fan. So I'm switching over to the super tiny smudger and smudging some charcoal into these shadows to get the shadows just a little bit richer. Let's give her some makeup too. So now I have my Tombow Mono eraser and I'm just adding in some highlights and erasing away some charcoal. Let's give her some blush. I think that would be really cute. So some to the upper cheeks, and I'm gonna add some to her nose even though she doesn't really have like a bumpy nose. And then some to the tips of her fingers. And some line art to finish it out. Now I really want to add this guy, just the top part of his head, to the bottom part, the whole thing, the bottom part of my sketchbook. I'm gonna really focus on his eyes and trying to get his expression down and make him look like an alien assassin. A little hole for the ear, and just real simple lines for the hair. The hair is the most distinguishing feature on this guy, and I am trying to simplify it just by adding in real straight lines, jagged edges, and add in these little hair stripies for hair direction and interest. Now hair is something, again, I struggle with it, and I still haven't done a hair study yet. I slowly just work at it as I see it, as I come across it, and slowly I feel like I'm getting the hang of it a little bit better each time, but I still really need to plan a hair study. But right now, aliens are more important. I forgot that I had this really dark marker. It came in a liner pack, so it's technically like a brush liner, but sometimes I use it, well, not sometimes, because I forgot I had it. So this is my really dark gray Ohuhu marker for the hair. And I'm going to add some texture somehow. I like that I left the lines white. I think that looks pretty cool. And let's add some little hair wispies. The reference was very hair wispy forward. So I wanted to keep that momentum going. And I made sure to pay attention to the direction of the hair as I added in the dark gray for the hair strands. And I'm finding that that is actually really, really important, and it matters. Usually I want to go in and just get the color down really fast, so I kind of just scribble the hair. And you can always see the scribble lines, so I'm trying not to scribble. I'm trying to be a little bit more methodical about my lines, and it helps. Since I had the pastel markers already out, I thought it would be fun to just add a little bit of texture to this guy, add some drama and contrast. I mean, he's really intense. And if I leave him very bright, he's not looking intense. So I thought adding in some darkness here, and especially some texture, would be really, really cool. Because you cannot keep me away from charcoal or charcoal-like things. Let's add some yellow and see how we like it. Maybe some pink to the shadows. Maybe it'll give a little bit more interest to the shadows. I think I'm really just enjoying experimenting and seeing what works and what doesn't work, and if it works, implementing it in the future. And the more things that I experiment with and collect, the more I can use it in the future and create a little arsenal of really interesting things. Look at this hair. This is the best hair I have ever done. So I'm adding charcoal and then quickly, well, I guess it doesn't matter how quickly it is, but I'm just blending it out with my finger. The quickness only matters so that I don't think about it a lot. And that's my goal for today, is to do art without thinking a lot. Look how dirty. Okay, so Pinterest knows that I love facial hair, so it gives me this reference. Huge mustache is all I see, and very brooding eyes. So those are the two things that I'm going to be focusing on. And I'm taking out my smudger to get the essence down before I commit. Now trying to figure out these brooding eyes and what makes eyes look broody and how to apply it to an alien is a little tricky. So I'm thinking, and we'll see if I'm right, that these eyes will work for brooding eyes. And this little puffiness under the eyes I think is going to be really important. All right, let's work on the mustache. So it's coming out from just below his nostrils, which mustaches do, and it goes down over his mouth and is really long and curves up. All right, let's work on the hair. I'm having really good luck with hair today, so I'm feeling really confident. I'm thinking that the direction of the hair is more important than anything else. At least that's what I'm going for today. I gotta watch out where I put my hand. And so I'm going for direction of hair and what else? Chunks of hair. I feel as though this alien would have these cheekbone lines. I want to try something different with these eyes and go for like a cross-hatching honeycomb pattern. So let's see if I can do it. Smudge it out. I don't think it's working. I really want to use my pastels again, so I'm using the darkest green that I have, and let's just fill him in. I hate how this is turning out. So I'm using my smudger, and then I guess I'll go in problem solving mode again, and let's see if maybe just adding a lot of layers of different shades of green can help. Maybe this is just a trust the process moment, so let's see what happens if we just go with it. Let's darken up the eyes for contrast and give him some highlights and see if we can fix this. My stress level is slowly increasing. Maybe if I just move on to the mustache and forget about the face, then I will have more fun again. Now I'm taking some liberties with the colors that I'm choosing. I am feeling really stressed out. So I'm choosing colors I think that aren't making sense. And I think I tend to do that when I stop caring about the project that I'm working on. I just I choose that moment, since I'm not dedicated to it anymore, I choose that moment to experiment and do things that kind of maybe don't make sense and see what works and see what doesn't work. And there's nothing to lose if I already don't like it, right? I think my problem is that I went too realistic with him. I tried to make him too human-like instead of lean into the alien aspect of it. So he's basically just like a human skull with a mustache and lips. If I could start this one over again, I would simplify him a lot more. Or honestly, maybe even pick a different reference photo. But I wanted to stay true to my challenge and draw all of the faces that came up first in my Pinterest page. I'm kind of hoping at this point that if I draw in with charcoal, I can save it. I'm just trying all of the things in my arsenal and seeing if the little tricks that I've accumulated help. And they don't. Now, I don't think he's the worst thing I've ever drawn, but he's definitely up there. And I made the mistake of drawing him massive. So you can't ignore how terrible he looks. Look at this. Well, bam! The good thing about having kids is always having baby wipes around. I gotta fix this line real quick. Okay, so this next one, I am not going to show the reference photo because it's a child and I don't really want to show kids' pictures on my channel. It's just something that I morally don't want to do. I don't think there's any laws against it, but I'm just keeping it safe around here. So I'll just tell you about the reference. This is a reference of a kid who is pinching their cheeks out and their eyes are kind of coming down, and I thought it would be really fun to apply that to an alien. And I didn't even have to scroll for it. It was right on the top, like 8 choices on my Pinterest page, so that was really exciting. Now, I realized that my problem with the last guy was that I tried to make him too real, and I added in too many details instead of trying to keep him simple. So my goal with this one is to just go back to the basics. That's why I got my pencil out, was to try to force myself to keep it simple. Anyway, so this is super fun. I'm already finding the fun again in alien drawing. Now, his mouth is much bigger, but I wanted to bring back the alien element, and I kept the mouth really tiny because in my head, aliens have really tiny mouths. Now let's give him a body. It's too small for the hands. Now the hands are gonna be big in general, just because they have long fingers, but this body needs to be a little bit bigger. And and let's add some shading. I don't think I'm gonna add any color to this. I think I'm quite colored out. So yeah, graphite, we'll just keep it with a pencil drawing. Try to heal my brain a little bit from the stress that I gave myself with the last one. Please excuse the sun. It is so bright shining through the window. I fix it later. But for this last one, I wasn't really vibing with any other aliens, with any other faces on my Pinterest page. So I wanted to have just some fun. And this one came straight out of the noggin. And I decided to show this as more of a sped up process because this is kind of just like a figuring out what to draw and figuring out the pose and figuring out all these different things without it being given to me. It's a very different spot in my brain that I have to use when I have to come up with something versus when I'm given something to copy. So yeah, this is just a cute little alien crossing their legs. The toes are on the wrong way on both feet. I figure it out much, much later. Not yet, clearly. So I'm almost done with the rough sketch, and I'm just trying to have more fun with this one. I'm not really worrying too much, and so I'm not trying to make it perfect. I'm just trying to make it fun. And let's add in a hand, and I'm thinking it'll just be resting on on the knee right here, and it's totally wrong. See, I fixed the blinds. I pulled the blinds down. I was scared that if I shut the blinds, the lighting would be too dark, because in my past videos, the lighting has just been really weird. So it's actually not terrible lighting. Sorry I didn't do that sooner. So I'm just fixing these lines, making the relationship between the hand and the legs all make sense together. And then I'm adding shading because initially this was going to stay a pencil sketch. I end up adding color later, but not yet. This leg has got to change position. I want it more to come down and like the big toe to be pressing against the ground. And this is when I figure out that this big toe needs to be closest to us. See, I'm halfway there. I still don't figure it out about the other foot yet. But I get there. So I was gonna keep this as a pencil sketch just because that's what I really wanted to do. However, when I looked at all of the spread, it looked really colorless over here. So I'm gonna color this like her, and let's do that. I'm gonna use the same color scheme. Well, I think I actually changed the color scheme a little bit. I used the same base color for his body, but then I used a very dark, one of my darker greens for the shadows instead of the green that I used for the other girl. So let's add shadows to every place that needs a shadow, including under this finger and arm. I love how relaxed this alien looks, just very serene, like he's on vacation and is just soaking up the sun. Let's add in some more spots where the shadows might be a little heavier, and then move on to the eyes. Oh, I love it. He's looking straight up with a tiny mouth, and let's add in some line art. I can't believe I kept my hand that steady. Usually line art is my worst spot. So if he's soaking up the sun, I'm gonna add in some sun rays, but maybe this isn't sun. Maybe this is like a UFO is trying to beam him up. I don't know, up for interpretation, I suppose. So let's add in the blue to the backside of him, and that will finish out this spread. So now let's see how it turned out. We have happy grandpa, sad girl, super serious ninja dude. Don't even look at this guy. Let's just go right on past. This cute little alien, and this just really relaxed guy who's being beamed up. So that was really fun. I hope you enjoyed it, and I will see you next week.